contact with a 32. McMurray says, hey, I was in front the last time. You took it away from me earlier today. He's going to try and take it away from here.
Oh, he's hung in the middle. Here comes Keselowski.
Got trouble now. Keselowski's got Logano on the high side. Look out, they're going to go around.
McMurray.
Been behind.
Oh, big crash. Oh, and up into the wall. Look out. The caution is out. The race will finish. And it looks like Brad Keselowski is going to get the race win.
Bring it here. Bring it here.
See McMurray trying to get in line right here, right behind Harvick. Just not enough room.
Yeah, and he had to check up for just a second because he was on the right rear quarter of Kevin Harvick.
And then once he goes around, the chaos begins.
There
Look
goes
at
Setzer.
Setzer. Wow.
Good to see him get out of that car, but that catch fence does its job.
Well, and remember, they raised the catch fence after last year's race here. Also stretched it out over the racetrack. You're right. It did its job. Another view.
See right there, Jamie McMurray just trying to get in. He was going to try to get there and push Kevin Harvick. Just
Got to
wasn't
remember,
an opening.
They're coming to the checker flag, so they're not going to let off.
Heading into Talladega every year, you know chaos could happen at any point of the race. But most of the time, it'll happen on the final lap and potentially the very final few feet of the race. But this time, one of the most dangerous crashes ever at Talladega was actually in the middle of turns 3 and 4 of the final lap of the 2010 Nationwide Series race at Talladega. Jamie McMurray tried to clear himself in the bottom lane and was unable to do so as there was already a car to his inside. As McMurray and the rest of the field would slide back up into the pack, a few cars would go into the catch fence, ripping it into shreds. This is something you rarely or never ever see, is the corner catch fence actually becoming into pieces. This is one of the most destructive crashes at Talladega history in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Thankfully, all drivers that were in this crash were okay, but it was one of the most violent crashes we've ever seen. A car ripping up the catch fence into flames. At least it made for a cool photo.
Well, here it is. Waltrip in the 55, Mears in the 13, Stewart in the 14.
You can see Tony just a little bit late in making that move to get back down. Harvick and Kenseth on the outside had a run, so they were literally going to go by him on both sides.
Watch the two. The championship leader somehow avoided getting really torn up in that.
See, it looked like Martin Truex was going to get through there. Bobby Labonte caught him right at the end.
They waited all day to do it, but it was big when it happened.
Yes, sir. See Michael Waltrip just barely catching the left rear quarter panel of Kevin Harvick. Get him involved. Stewart's car upside down on top of Casey Kane's number 5.
By far, one of the most wildest crashes I've ever seen as a NASCAR fan was the 2012 Talladega playoff race. Tony Stewart tried to block Michael Waltrip on the bottom of the track, wasn't clear, and sent himself and Waltrip back up the track. And it collected everybody but like 6 cars. This was still the most craziest thing that's probably ever happened at Talladega, and that's saying something. This crash will be forever remembered as the big one. Actually, never mind. The everyone.
Now into 5 and turn 6.
All of that contact between the two leaders is allowed. While the 24 is spinning. The 24's, there's multiple cars into the wall here. There must be oil or some kind of fluid down on the racetrack right there in turn. We got more cars coming in.
William Byron is reporting that the curb came up. He hit the curb in the 24.
Yeah, the curbing is coming up, and that's what everyone hit when they were coming through there in turn 6. The curbing comes up, catches a bunch of the cars, the front ends of the cars, and numerous cars are destroyed. Take a look at what happened to Daniel Suarez's car. The 22 of Logano also involved.
We've all seen this clip time and time again, but it's worth to be replayed in this video as the most destructive crash at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the NASCAR Cup Series, especially at the road course. Joey Logano would go head-on into the tire barriers right behind some race fans. Now that's pretty dangerous. But that wasn't just the only highlight of the accident. Entering the corner, William Byron would jump over the curb. It would rip the underside of his car apart, and the curb would basically be disintegrated as oil would go all over the racetrack, causing this massive accident behind him.
And that's what happens to just get in the wall. Not too hard, though. He'll definitely get away with that. But now he knows the limit, the speed you can take there.
Oh, and there goes Sheldon Creed. Second caution of the day. Oh, my. Big contact. And two drivers going for the dash for cash. 44 is Brennan Poole, 00 Sheldon Creed. Things happen so fast. They were running 15th and 17th. Window net is down. Poole still inside of his car as the safety crew is there and talking with him. See him moving around, gloves are off. And now he'll climb out. That's good to see.
Really vicious hits. Losing the rear of the race car up in maybe some of the marbles that are up there and trying to turn down left as you see the 14 do the same, and there's Brennan trying to do the same thing.
Running 15th and 17th respectively in the race, Sheldon Creed would be spun out on the front stretch, luckily with no damage, up until Brennan Poole would come sliding across the racetrack and collect and run right into Sheldon Creed, creating this vicious accident. Thankfully, both drivers were okay, but it was very unfortunate as they both were racing for the dash for cash, which awards the drivers an extra $100,000 whoever finishes the highest. This really could have been helpful for that 44 team and his driver. But unfortunately, this ended up being the most destructive crash we've seen at Bristol in some time.
There was some talk of whether the team could switch points.
Whoa, guys, whoa. Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. I have never seen anything like that in my life.
He hit that wall a ton.
Oh, my gosh.
Michael's moving around in the car. My goodness, that car just hooked, went straight in.
It did that hook and go up the hill, man.
And that was a incredibly hard impact into the safer barrier.
Look at that safer barrier right there, how it just crushed all that stuff.
That is good, though. That means that thing moved.
It's great. It's just incredible how hard it hit.
Just the minute he turns down into the corner.
Yeah, and he's just, man, and that thing just absolutely.
I will guarantee you that impact was well over 180, probably 185 miles per hour. We've already seen 199 or better getting in there going straight.
Your 2021 Daytona 500 champion, yes, that driver, Michael McDowell, was the one who had this vicious accident in qualifying at Texas in 2008. This was the first year for NASCAR to bring its full-time car, the COT car, into action. It was geared towards safety, and this proved that it was going to be a very, very safe car for NASCAR for the coming years. This is one of the most violent crashes we've ever seen in NASCAR history at qualifying. It tore this car to pieces, and thankfully, McDowell was able to walk away unharmed.
Stewart just bulled his way through there to get an opportunity, and he's going to have it too. Final corner at Daytona. Who's going to get here first? Regan Smith 7, Keselowski 22, Stewart 33, and contact! Smith turned around. Tommy Stewart is going to win this race. And a terrible crash coming to the finish.
This is a big wreck.
Kyle Larson's car with the front end severely torn off.
That is the engine out of the 32 car. That's in the grandstand side of that wall.
Yeah, also a tire and wheel assembly.
As the field came to the checkered flag, watch the white 32 car. And again, Kyle Larson did climb from that machine. You heard from him a minute ago.
Kyle Larson had one of the most vicious accidents in Daytona in 2013 in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. His car would be catapulted into the catch fence, releasing a tire into the grandstands. This is one of the most dangerous crashes for a race car driver and spectators. This is something that's never happened since, and thankfully. The tire catapulted itself over the catch fence into the grandstands and injuring a couple fans. Thankfully, this has never happened since, but this is one of the darkest days at Daytona we've had in some time, up until 2020 when Ryan Newman had that vicious accident. Still to this day, it shocks me that this accident even happened.
Hanging tough here on the restart.
Oh, here we go.
Got trouble. That's Casey Kane. It goes sideways. Joey Logano nowhere to go.
Oh, my.
Clint
Half the
Boyer
field
through
is
the grass. The big one at Daytona has happened at lap 97.
That is the huge one at Daytona.
Justin Allgaier.
Oh, and the
Denny
18
Hamlin,
gets on its roof.
and Kyle Busch rolls upside down.
A rain delay Coke 0400 Daytona raced on a Sunday, and they already had a big one earlier in the race, collecting Jeff Gordon, Dale Jr., and Tony Stewart, but the big ones weren't done yet. And it was when Joey Logano got hooked down the backstretch with Casey Kane, and it sent everybody spinning and crashing. Kyle Busch even ended up on his roof after this one. This crash would ultimately be the deciding factor of the race, as rain would come later on, and Eric Almirola would be able to take home the victory as one of the few cars remaining without damage.
Crash over in turn 2. Michael Waltrip has hit the wall hard. The car is upside down, and you can see the car is really torn up. Well, Jerry, I said it's sort of on its side, or, boy, yes, it is upside down.
They're fixing up that gate where Michael hit over there. Let's take a look one more time and give that Kool-Aid man on the hood of that Pontiac a wild ride. Now, just coming out of turn 2, that's the crossover gate, and Michael hits the juncture of the gate and the concrete wall that begins the back straightaway. The car is literally sawed open, and you see the steering wheel now sticking out to the left side of the car. And this is what's left of Michael Waltrip's Kool-Aid Country Time Pontiac.
Out of the second turn and down the backstretch. That's Waltrip and Alan Kulwicki leading this.
Oh,
look at
Earnhardt got sideways. Somebody looked like made some contact with
Uh-oh, we've got a problem.
Contact here, for sure. Darrell Waltrip and Joe Rutten. Waltrip's car gets on his roof and over and over.
Darrell Waltrip tumbling down the backstretch in what appears to be a very, very serious crash. Joe Ruttman, the other car involved in that incident.
that. We see Darrell. He's down on the inside of Kulwicki, and Joe Ruttman right behind him. Now here comes Earnhardt. Looks like someone had tapped him. Kulwicki came down and touched Darrell.
Threw him back into Ruttman.
Ruttman gets in the side of him. And here's the road they hit.
Yep. When he hits the road, it gets him airborne, and the car starts over. Of course, he was being pushed by the car number 75. That was just a circumstance.
Yeah, he's got to get to the top. The top's going to have the biggest energy here. 21's going to come with a huge shove.
They are 2 and 3 wide behind him. Crossover.
Here he
That's
comes.
Austin Hill on the 21. Big crash. Up and over. Caution is out. That's Myatt Snyder. First start in his rookie season. It's Austin Hill who gets it done at Daytona, and here's what happened behind him.
That's just a bad scenario. Once you get turned around backwards, if he doesn't get hit in the front end, it probably doesn't get airborne, but it's just you got that other car wedging underneath the front to get the lift there. But it's great to see, like Chad talked about, the safety innovations of these cars. You know, to see Myatt just walk right out, that's a great sign.
And I would be anxious to see how close it was at the time of caution, because look right here, it looks like the 16's out front. Whew, it had to be really close.
The caution wasn't out at that point when they left our screen, so he was clearly ahead by the time he left the bottom of your monitors on television. But unfortunately, Anthony Alfredo getting into the back of the 31 and creating that issue.
I actually was able to witness this from the grandstands, and my contacts fell out of my eye, and I was unable to see on the backstretch. But all I saw was a big fire flame, and I knew something bad had happened. And what had happened was Myatt Snyder would be lifted into the catch fence, ripping the front and rear of his car off. The only thing left of his car was just the cockpit. That is something extremely dangerous, but thankfully, Myatt Snider was able to walk away from this. It still blows my mind how safe these race cars have gotten over the last 25 years. Just unbelievable.
Well, here it is. Waltrip in the 55, Mears in the 13, Stewart in the 14.
You can see Tony just a little bit late in making that move to get back down. Harvick and Kenseth on the outside had a run, so they were literally going to go by him on both sides.
Watch the two. The championship leader somehow avoided getting really torn up in that.
See, it looked like Martin Truex was going to get through there. Bobby Labonte caught him right at the end.
They waited all day to do it, but it was big when it happened.
Yes, sir. See Michael Waltrip just barely catching the left rear quarter panel of Kevin Harvick. Get him involved. Stewart's car upside down on top of Casey Kane's number 5.
Down here, Greg Biffle, Kyle Busch, both of them kind of describing amongst the laugh and probably a big sigh as well.
By far, one of the most wildest crashes I've ever seen as a NASCAR fan was the 2012 Talladega playoff race. Tony Stewart tried to block Michael Waltrip on the bottom of the track, wasn't clear, and sent himself and Waltrip back up the track. And it collected everybody but like 6 cars. This was still the most craziest thing that's probably ever happened at Talladega, and that's saying something. This crash will be forever remembered as the big one. Actually, never mind. The everyone.